right. It's awful, right?
That's not what it looks like.
If it looked like this, would you be opposed to it? Or would you still be, if it did look like this?
98% of abortions happen in the first trimester.
Right.
So they don't look like that.
What do you think this is?
That's what an embryo looks like of any mammal at that time. So.
Well, for people like me that don't judge people by how they look, I just believe in human rights. So this is a human being at about 6 to 8 weeks. This is the normal stage of abortion.
You see, there's been a bunch of research that went into abortion bans that it proves that they don't actually decrease the amount of abortions that occur.
How'd they do that, being that there's never been an abolition bill passed and enforced anywhere?
Well, there's never going to be a federal abortion bill.
Why is that?
Because the federal government knows that around 60% of Americans agree that abortion rights should be extended.
Yeah, I know. I know people want it, but like there have been other evils that people say that will never be abolished. You abolitionists need to shut up and go home. And then the country did abolish. Like the same exact kind of situation. A lot of people thought chattel slavery was good and right, my plantation, my prerogative, don't tell me what to do with my property. You will never abolish this. And of course you can't buy and sell people out here today.
Yeah, but there's just too many arguments that abortion is unnecessary health care, because when you think of abortion, you think people are just they're just choosing to do this because they don't want the pregnancy, which is valid. But also there's cases of
which is valid in the sense of that is okay?
Yes.
Well then, so you're arguing for that.
Yes, but I'm also saying there's a lot of situations where a woman gets raped, where it's incest, it's not a viable pregnancy, but it's really difficult to get that necessary health care in those situations.
Right.
If you're in a state where there's a complete abortion ban. You can look at like Georgia, where there was just a woman who died because she was not able to get the remnants of a miscarriage taken out of her uterus.
Well, that's not true. So I've lost babies. My wife and we've lost children. There's nothing, and I'm from Oklahoma. It's not illegal anywhere to remove the body of a person who's died, either from your property or from your body or anything like that. But it is propaganda. Like, do you think it's okay whenever one person wants to do something like murder a child just so they can continue to not have to raise a baby that they have? And they seize, terminate a child. So one person wants to terminate.
Pregnancy, it's an embryo at that point.
Yeah, I'm not trying to bias you. I'm just using the scientific language, like a human embryo. So somebody somewhere wants to terminate their pregnancy by taking a pill that kind of
it induces a miscarriage.
It ends the life and the continued development. It stops the process of living and development in the womb. So they do that, and the reason they want to do it is just because they're not ready to raise a child. So they only want the child up to whenever the abortifacient works. So that person, in pursuit of protecting that action, looks all around and finds somebody else facing some serious situation and then hijacks it and uses that to justify do you think that's good behavior?
The woman who just died in Georgia, it's because she took an abortion pill.
Yeah.
And it did not work fully.
Okay, so she wanted to. Oh, okay, so.
She needed to go to the hospital.
So she wanted to abort her child.
Yeah,
it didn't work,
illegal,
and then she wanted to continue to abort her child.
In Georgia.
Okay, so even that propaganda, when you actually get the story, it ends up working out that she, with malice aforethought, was determined to end that human embryo or human fetus's life. The weapon she chose failed, so she wanted to continue to end that life, but it went up against whatever law. And so she eventually said something, and someone who also wanted to justify abortion because they had done it to a baby used their power as a journalist to seize on this situation so they should propagate it and put it in the news so that everybody else, to the tunes of millions, could murder their children for absolutely any reason whatsoever, but feel good because some woman somewhere did this thing. I mean, that's how propaganda works.
I don't consider it propaganda when it's just the reality of the situation? Yes,
Yeah.
was she was inducing a miscarriage. She took an abortion pill.
Yeah.
Within the legal time period in the state she was in.
Yeah, which I think is wrong. We disagree on that.
But
I think that state is wrong to allow the deprivation of a human being's rights to live. I think that baby, that human, their body was developing, and she violated her child's bodily autonomy and with violent aggression ended their life.
Well, you can look at like.
But with the permission of the pro-lifers in Georgia.
You could look at like, organ donors. If a person isn't an organ donor and they die, they just died, they have a perfectly good liver, but they're not an organ donor, so even if someone else is dying, you can't, even though that person is dead, they don't know that you're taking their liver. You can't. They have that autonomy that they don't want to give up their part of, that part of their body.
Sure, but what does that have to do with it?
Same thing with women. She does not want to give up her uterus for 9 months. She doesn't want to have to take off work. What if she can't afford to pay for all of the doctor's appointments? And even if she decides, I can't afford it, I'll go through with the pregnancy.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation is she's with child. But we live in a world where, you know what, when you're with child and you don't want to be with child and you don't want to like sort of wait till they're born to, suffocate them in your bathtub, you get to do it. People do that?
It's a very small amount of cases. Infanticide is illegal.
Right. Do you agree with that though?
Infanticide is illegal. At that point, after a full-term pregnancy, that baby.
So you agree with it? You support the continued criminality? Like it should be criminal. Like so say you had a baby and they were in the NICU and they were about 26 weeks, and you didn't want them because you were really poor, and say they were rape conceived and you had a disease.
At that point, it is already alive. In the first trimester, the fetus
Yeah.
has no consciousness. It has no sense of pain. You could say,
Yeah.
if you poke it, it's gonna have a reaction. But
Yeah,
that's
I understand.
anything. If you put your hand on the stove, you take your hand off before your brain even realizes
Yeah.
that it was pain.
Have you ever been around a newborn baby?
I think that babies are great, but
Well, I'm just saying, newborn babies, especially babies in the NICU who are basically hooked up to monitors and being helped and assisted by a whole wing of doctors, they're identical to babies the exact same age inside the womb, and they can be murdered in the womb, but that exact same baby can't be murdered in the NICU. Why is that?
if you look at a lot of states that don't have abortion bans in place, they still have restrictions
Yeah.
up until around 20-ish weeks.
Yeah, no
That's
state has
still
an abortion ban.
Well, no, you can look at like Texas. Women cannot get abortions.
That's not true.
I mean, I can look it up.
I've ordered abortion pills from Texas.
There's ways to.
I'm not I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm an abolitionist. I believe abortion is murder and should be treated like murder.
Do you believe that for religious reasons?
Yeah, I follow Jesus
We don't
Christ.
have a national religion, so
Right.
there's never going to be a law.
I don't think we need to have a national religion. So are you? So you're? Yeah. So I am. So I do follow Christ. He says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." I do believe in the golden rule, right? So, and I do believe in human rights. But for when, no, I believe in human rights. Like if you have a human, like I don't reject human rights if the human isn't as useful as the other human, or as developed as the other human, or as white as the other human. Human has rights. So human in the embryological stage, human in the fetal stage, human in the prepubescent stage. I am for human rights, and I don't think I'm for her rights too. But I'm not for extending special murder rights to mothers. Like women shouldn't have more rights than men.
Well, no, that's a different situation because there's never going to be a situation where a man has a life inside of him. Hi, Molly. There's never going to be that situation.
But if there was, I would oppose the man's right to terminate a human being.
Well, that's just never a situation you have to worry about. So you're in a position. Yeah.
No, I'm an abolitionist.
Oh, he thinks that abortion should be illegal in the entire country always.
Yes.
Really? So
Yeah.
if I were to get raped, I should be forced to have the child?
Well, if we slow down, because I'm not trying to win a debate. Everyone brings that up, and so everyone who brings it up, I asked, in the event that you were raped, or you or someone who was younger, who had a disease, who was very poor, who also was being shamed and all this kind of stuff, and pressured and all this kind. In that situation, you have the rapist, the mother, and the child. Do you believe that children can and should be punished to death for the crimes of their fathers?
Whether that's my personal belief, I don't believe that choice should be made for anyone else.
But do you think our laws should protect children? Is a simple thing.
I think it's just funny how all those shootings happening in elementary schools and there's no regulation on that, but then people are focusing on an unborn child.
Well, there are, but do you think that children should be punished to death for the crimes of their fathers?
It just depends, I think, on
Or the sins of
what
their
you
mothers.
consider life to be, because we're never going to agree on this, because we just have a different definition on what constitutes.
Sure, that's what it comes down to. I think humans begin at conception. That's what the word conception means.
Religious. I'm sure that's.
Well, I think that's 100% consistent with what you would learn in a biology class here.
Well, then you can look at like IVF. It's a fertilized egg. It's as alive.
When you
as
fertilize an egg, it creates a human embryo.
Yeah, and those embryos are just as alive as they are right after.
100%.
The embryo.
I don't think we should murder them either. 100%.
So, if a woman is going through IVF, they fertilize multiple eggs. In
I know.
IVF. They have it in here.
They dehumanize them, they traffic them, they incarcerate them, and then they abandon them. Sometimes they vivisect them. They do scientific experiments on them. I am for human rights. I'm not for, just because people do an evil thing doesn't make it right. Just because the law allows them to do it doesn't make it right.
Well,
That's propaganda.
Your
Talking about
beliefs,
propaganda? That's propaganda.
I was talking about the abolition of slavery.
your beliefs on what constitutes a
See,
life.
men love abortion.
on
People don't
what
understand.
constitutes evil is based in religious reasons, which I respect, but you have to understand that there's never.
Well, the
gonna be a
law
federal
against murder
abortion
is
ban.
based in religious reasons.
It's your definition of murder in terms of abortion is quite
Okay.
different from the majority of people in this country.
As someone who,
Because the people in this country, the majority, believe in abortion rights, there's never going to be a federal abortion ban, no
Yeah.
matter how much you want it. And on the ballot in Florida, in the general election,
Mm-hmm.
there's Amendment 4, and
yeah, I'm aware of it. I got a sign here.
nice and close.
A vote for
to
Amendment 4 is a vote for
60%
this.
of Floridians are in favor of extended abortion rights.
Sure.
And if they vote on it and they vote in favor of it, that's going to happen.
Do you
because
think that if
that's
the
how
majority is for something, that makes it right?
I think if the majority is for something that is on the general election ballot and they vote for it, then that's going to become a law because that's how democracy
But does that make it
works.
right? Like we were in the midst of the Third Reich
No, I don't think
and a majority thought that the Jews were a problem. Does
that's
that
not
make
my
it right?
argument. That's not my argument. I'm saying that
The
there's
argument you're
never gonna
making
be
is
a-
if the majority and if it's possible. Because I would say as a historian that there was a point in time where people said a majority of the people in this country, even those who don't own slaves, believe that this is necessary for our economic supremacy in the world. And they also said, we will never get rid of it. And by the way, it's protected in our laws. Why don't you abolitionists just shut the hell up and go home?
I'm not speaking on morals in this point. I'm just relaying exactly how this country works. If 60%
I am
of
too.
Floridian voters vote on Amendment 4 in favor of it in November, then it's
Yeah.
going to become a law because that's how the country works. And we're never going to get to a point where the central government has so much power.
I just want you to think about that.
Make so many laws.
I'm trying to get you to think about the process by which you're arguing for it. If 60% wanted legalized child molestation and they put it on the ballot,
They don't. That's the thing. You're
no,
going against the
that's the use of the word if. If, I'm saying for the argument you're making, if they wanted child molestation and then they put it on the ballot and then they voted, would that make child molestation okay? Because that is the argument you're making.
And I also think
And sometimes whenever you start to make the
I
argument,
just can't hear this anymore. And I think too,
Why
if
not?
this thing is going to be put into law, if someone really wants to get an abortion, they'll do it anyway in just an unsafe way.
Yeah.
That puts them in danger too. And if you do that amendment,
Yeah, murder's
they don't
not
care
safe.
about instances at all. There
Yes.
could be a 6-year-old who's a victim of incest and gets pregnant,
Mm.
and this ban or whatever, and this saying that you
Yeah.
should not be able to get an abortion regardless, they're not going to.
well, this isn't a ban. Just so Amendment 4 is to enshrine.
No, but what I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I would be
is that-
for I would be for extending the laws that protect you to all humans equally. That's what I'd be for.
But saying that abortion is wrong, so then in all those instances where you get raped, or there's all of those.
Do you think it's only right in the instances of rape?
No.
So why are you arguing as if that's the
I
reason
just
you think it's
there's
right?
so many instances where someone will not, like if you're raped or like a victim of incest, you don't
Mm-hmm.
choose to get pregnant.
So the person who, with their boyfriend or their husband, and is choosing to have sex, that person should, if they abort their baby, they should
No.
face murder charges?
But we're going with the most extreme cases because
It's the easiest way to
when
argue.
you're arguing this, you have to think about the most extreme things it could cause. But clearly, we don't understand.
Yeah.
We don't agree.
I just fear and worry that people just actually want abortion because they like it or they've done it or they would like to do it.
You're not a woman, so you will just never understand that mindset.
No, but I'm a man and I could be.
You're not a woman with a uterus. You never have to worry about getting
listen,
pregnant.
the reason.
So you do not
Yeah.
get to speak on this with such.
Do you think men
emotion like
ever
this.
tell women, go get an abortion?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure when these politicians get their mistresses pregnant, they
Yes.
take them to get abortions.
100%. I agree with you 100%. You know why? Because abortion is at base love of self, the death of a child.
I love myself more than I love an embryo.
Yes,
And
you've already
that is
said that
how
you're
it's
not a
done.
Christian, and that is the non-Christian point.
That
So
there
Christians
is
believe
plenty
in
of
loving your neighbor
Christians.
as yourself.
There's plenty of Christians who believe in
Yeah,
abortions.
disobedient Christians. I would call them professing believers who are hypocrites.
Well, there is never going to be a federal abortion ban.
Well, I hope there is, and I will pursue it. At every age, there's abolitionists, and every age, there are anti-abolitionists.